Doctor, I am a man. Men don't get pregnant. I don't even menstruate. How can I be carrying a baby?
The plate crashed against the kitchen wall with a thunderous crack, sending fragments of ceramic flying across the tiled floor like angry tears. Chinwe, what kind of nonsense food is this? Emeka's voice boomed through their two-bedroom flat in Ikeja, Lagos, his face twisted with disgust. Are you trying to poison me with salt? Eh? Is this how pregnant women cook? Chinwe stood frozen by the stove, her 6-month belly prominent beneath her wrapper, tears already forming in her eyes. The jollof rice she had spent 2 hours preparing despite her swollen feet and aching back now decorated the wall like abstract art. I'm sorry, Emeka. Let me cook another. Sorry? Emeka laughed bitterly, loosening his tie as he paced the small living room. Every day, sorry, you cannot cook, you cannot clean properly, you cannot even satisfy your husband. What kind of pregnancy is this that has turned you into a useless woman? The baby makes me tired, and my back. Baby, baby, baby. He spun around, his eyes flashing with cruel amusement. Are you carrying Jesus Christ? Ordinary pregnancy and you're acting like you're dying. My mother carried 8 children and never complained once. But you? 1 pregnancy and you think you're a queen. Chinwe's hand instinctively moved to her belly, protecting the child within from his harsh words. This had become their evening routine, him coming home from his job at the bank, finding fault with everything she did and using her pregnancy as ammunition for his cruelty. Clean this mess, he commanded, stepping over the broken pieces without a care. And don't think about sleeping until my food is ready. Real food, not the rubbish you served me. As Chinwe bent down slowly, her pregnant belly making the task nearly impossible, Emeka settled into his chair, switching on the television with the remote. And tomorrow, make sure you iron my clothes properly. The shirt you gave me today looked like it was trampled by a goat. That night, as Chinwe lay on their bed, Emeka having banished her to the far edge because pregnant women take up too much space, she whispered a prayer into the darkness. She prayed for strength for her unborn child, and somewhere deep in her heart, she prayed that somehow, someday, Emeka would understand the pain he was causing her. She had no idea how literally that prayer would be answered. The morning sun pierced through the curtains like a spotlight. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. Emeka's eyes snapped open, and immediately a wave of nausea crashed over him like a tsunami. His hand flew to his mouth, but it wasn't just nausea, it was the deep, rolling sickness that seemed to emanate from his very core. Chinwe, he called weakly, but his voice came out as a croak. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through his lower back, the same kind of pain Chinwe had been complaining about for months. But that wasn't the most shocking discovery. As his hand moved across his torso, Emeka's eyes widened in absolute horror. His flat, muscular stomach, the one he was so proud of, had transformed overnight into a rounded, unmistakably pregnant belly. Chingwee! This time, his voice found its strength, but it was laced with pure terror. His wife rushed into the bedroom, and when she saw Emeka sitting up with a massive pregnant belly, she screamed so loudly the neighbors probably heard. Jesus Christ! Emeka, what? What happened to you? Chinwe's voice was shaking, her eyes wide with disbelief. Emeka expected to see her own pregnant form, but instead, Chinwe stood there with her familiar pre-pregnancy figure, flat belly, normal posture, no sign of the 6 months she had been carrying their child. it yourself, Emeka shouted, pointing frantically. Where is your belly? Where is our baby? Chinwe looked down at herself, her hands flying to her now flat stomach. I don't understand. I was pregnant yesterday. I went to bed pregnant, and now I am. Emeka struggled to his feet, his new belly throwing off his balance completely. This is witchcraft. Your family did this to me. My family? Chinwe's shock was giving way to something else. A mixture of confusion and, if Emeka wasn't mistaken, slight amusement. I don't know what happened, but maybe now you'll understand what I've been going through. Don't you dare! Emeka's voice cracked with panic. Call Dr. Adebayo! Call him now! Dr. Adebayo arrived at their flat within the hour, his medical bag in hand and his face showing the kind of skepticism reserved for prank calls. But when he saw Emeka sprawled on the sofa with an unmistakably pregnant belly, his professional composure cracked. This is impossible, the doctor muttered, pulling out his stethoscope. Mr. Emeka, how do you feel? How do I feel? Emeka's voice pitched higher with hysteria. Doctor, I am a man. Men don't get pregnant. I don't even menstruate. How can I be carrying a baby? Dr. Adebayo conducted his examination in stunned silence, listening to the heartbeat, measuring the belly, checking vitals. Everything pointed to one impossible conclusion. According to my examination, the doctor said slowly, removing his stethoscope, you are approximately 6 months pregnant. The baby appears healthy and developing normally. No! Emeka shot up from the sofa, immediately regretting the sudden movement as dizziness washed over him. That cannot be! I am a man. Fix this. Give me medicine. Do surgery. Mr. Emeka, please sit down before you hurt yourself, Dr. Adebayo said firmly. Whatever has caused this condition, I cannot reverse it. You must carry this pregnancy to term. I will not. Emeka was now crying, his hands clutching his belly. I have a job. I have a reputation. I cannot walk around Lagos looking like this. Dr. Adebayo opened his medical bag and pulled out several bottles. You need to start taking these prenatal vitamins immediately. Folic acid, iron supplements, calcium tablets. You'll need to come for regular antenatal appointments. Antenatal? Emeka's voice squeaked. You want me to sit with pregnant women in your clinic? You are a pregnant person? The doctor said carefully. You need proper medical care. And Mr. Emeka, you should start taking gentle walks daily for the health of the baby. Light exercise is crucial during pregnancy. Exercise? In this condition? Emeka gestured wildly at his belly. Yes, and you must eat properly, rest adequately, and avoid stress. Dr. Adebayo packed his bag. I'll see you next week for your first official antenatal appointment. After the doctor left, Emeka sat in stunned silence, staring at his reflection in the blank television screen. The man he saw there with the swollen belly, the fuller face, the unmistakable glow of pregnancy was a stranger. The first week was a crash course in the reality of pregnancy that no amount of medical textbooks could have prepared him for. Emeka discovered that his usual work shirts wouldn't button over his belly, his pants wouldn't zip, his shoes felt too tight because his feet had swollen. Chinwe, he called from the bedroom, his voice filled with defeat. I need different clothes. Chinwe appeared in the doorway, and Emeka noticed she looked more relaxed than she had in months. The constant exhaustion was gone from her eyes, the perpetual discomfort absent from her posture. Your maternity clothes, he said quietly. Can I borrow them? Something flickered in Chinwe's eyes Satisfaction, perhaps, or justice. Of course, my dear husband. Let me help you. The maternity dresses hung loose on his frame in some places and stretched tight in others. The flowing fabrics that had looked elegant on Qingwei somehow made him feel exposed and vulnerable. I look ridiculous, Emeka muttered, staring at his reflection. You look pregnant, Qingwei said simply. Would you like me to help you with a wig? Pregnant women often feel more comfortable when they look appropriate. The wig was humiliating. The long, dark hair that Qingwei carefully styled made his reflection even more foreign. But somehow, it helped him blend in during his mandatory evening walks. Doctor, Adebayo had insisted on the walks, and Emeka found himself waddling around their neighborhood every evening, wearing flowing maternity dresses and wigs, trying to hide his identity from anyone who might recognize him. Look how you walk now, Qingwei observed one evening, watching him return from his exercise. Just like I used to walk. Remember how you used to laugh at my waddle? But even pregnancy, even the daily humiliation of dressing like a woman, of feeling his body change in ways that terrified him couldn't completely cure Emeka's cruel nature. Qingwei, he snapped one morning, struggling to put on his shoes over his swollen feet. Why didn't you prepare my breakfast? I'm eating for two now. Qingwei looked up from where she was reading peacefully on the sofa, something she hadn't been able to do in months when she was the pregnant one. I was resting, she said calmly. Resting? Emeka's voice took on its familiar harsh tone, even though it now came from a man wearing a maternity dress and a wig. What do you need to rest for? You're not the one carrying a baby. The words hung in the air like a poison cloud. Qingwei stood up slowly, and for the first time since this strange transformation began, Emeka saw real anger flash in her eyes. What did you just say to me? I said, I heard what you said. Qingwei's voice was quiet, but it carried a dangerous edge. You're pregnant for 1 week, and already you're acting like I owe you everything. Like I should serve you because you're carrying a child. Emeka opened his mouth to argue, but Qingwei continued. For 6 months, I cooked for you while my back was breaking. I cleaned this house while my feet were so swollen I could barely walk. I ironed your clothes, washed your dishes, satisfied your every demand, and what did you tell me? Emeka's face went pale as his own words came back to him. You told me it was ordinary pregnancy. You told me I was lazy. You told me I was useless. Qingwei's voice was gaining strength with every word. And now? 1 week of pregnancy, and you think the world owes you service? That's different. Different how? Qingwei stepped closer, and Emeka instinctively backed away. Because you're a man. Because your pregnancy is somehow more important than mine was. What followed were the longest, most difficult months of Emeka's life. As his belly grew larger, his arrogance crumbled piece by piece. The simple act of getting out of bed became an ordeal. His back ached constantly, a deep, throbbing pain that no position could relieve. His feet swelled so badly that walking became agony. The nausea that had started in the first week never completely went away. Some mornings, he couldn't keep anything down. Other mornings, he was so hungry he felt dizzy. His antenatal appointments became a source of profound humiliation. Sitting in Dr. Adebayo's waiting room, surrounded by genuinely pregnant women, wearing his wig and maternity dress, he felt the weight of their curious stares and whispered questions. That's not a woman, he heard one patient whisper to another. That's Emeka from the bank. I heard he somehow got pregnant. The story had spread through Lagos like wildfire. The man who got pregnant, some called it a miracle, others called it a curse. Everyone had an opinion. Emeka stopped going to work. How could he sit in business meetings with a belly that now protruded so far he couldn't reach his desk? How could he maintain his professional reputation while wearing maternity clothes and waddling like a duck? His world shrank to the confines of their flat, and within those walls, Chinwe was no longer the submissive, suffering wife he had grown accustomed to. "Emeka," she said one afternoon, watching him struggle to tie his shoes. "Do you remember what you told me when I asked you to help me with my shoes?" Emeka paused, his belly making it impossible to reach his feet properly. "You told me that pregnant women needed to stay active, remember? That I shouldn't expect special treatment just because I was carrying a child." "This is different," Emeka panted, still struggling with his laces. "I'm a man. This isn't natural for me." "And it was natural for me." Chinwe's voice was sharp. "You think women are born knowing how to handle pregnancy? You think we don't suffer?" She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Lagos traffic below. "For months, I begged you for help, for kindness, for understanding. And what did you give me? Cruelty, mockery. You made me feel like pregnancy was a weakness, like I was failing as a wife because I couldn't handle it perfectly." Emeka had given up on his shoes. He sat back on the bed, his hands resting on his enormous belly, and for the first time, he really understood what he had done to his wife. But Chinwe wasn't finished. "You want to know what real pain is?" she continued, her back still to him. "Real pain is carrying a child, while the person who should love you most treats you like a burden. Real pain is crying yourself to sleep because the father of your baby calls you useless. Real pain is feeling like you're failing at the most natural thing in the world because someone makes you believe you're weak." Emeka tried to speak, but she held up her hand. "Number, you listen now. For 8 months, you're going to experience exactly what I experienced. Every ache, every pain, every moment of vulnerability, and I'm going to treat you exactly the way you treated me." And she did. When Emeka struggled to cook dinner with his massive belly in the way, Chinwe would criticize the food. "This soup is too watery. Are you trying to poison us? What kind of pregnant man cooks like this?" When he asked for help, reaching something from a high shelf, she would laugh. "Are you carrying Jesus Christ? Ordinary pregnancy, and you can't even stretch properly." When his feet swelled so badly he couldn't walk properly, she would mock his waddle. "Look at you walking like a duck. My grandmother was pregnant 12 times and never complained about her feet. The cruelest part was that she would help him, initially bringing him water when he was nauseous, rubbing his back when it ached, only to snatch that kindness away with cutting words that echoed his own past cruelty. Oh, you think because you're pregnant you deserve special treatment? That's not how marriage works, Emeka. Pull your weight like everyone else. By his 8th month, Emeka was a broken man. He could barely sleep because the baby's constant kicking kept him awake. His back pain was so severe he couldn't stand for more than a few minutes at a time. His ankles had swollen to twice their normal size. His maternity wardrobe had expanded to include multiple wigs, long hair for formal occasions like antenatal visits, shorter styles for around the house. The irony wasn't lost on him that he now owned more women's clothing than his wife did. One evening, as he struggled to prepare dinner while wearing a flowing maternity dress and shoulder-length wig, the baby kicked so hard he doubled over in pain. "Chinwe," he called weakly. "The baby, it's kicking so hard. Can you rub my back?" Chinwe looked up from her book. She had developed quite a reading habit since she was no longer exhausted all the time. "I'm reading," she said dismissively. "Handle it yourself." What do you think pregnant women did before husbands started babying them? Emeka felt tears streaming down his face. Not from the physical pain, but from the emotional devastation of feeling so alone, so helpless, so unloved during the most vulnerable time of his life. "Please," he whispered. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I did to you. I understand now. I understand how much I hurt you." Qingwei closed her book slowly and looked at her husband. This man, who had once been so proud, so arrogant, so cruel, now standing in her kitchen, wearing a maternity dress and wig, tears streaming down his face, his hands cradling a belly that held their child. "Do you?" she asked quietly. "Do you really understand?" "Yes," Emeka sobbed. "I was a monster. I made you feel worthless when you were creating life. I mocked you when you needed support. I called you weak when you were being stronger than I ever could be." He slumped against the counter, his massive belly making it hard to breathe. "I don't know how you forgave me even for a day. I don't know how you didn't leave me. I don't know how you stayed loving when all I gave you was cruelty." Qingwei stood up slowly, and for a moment, Emeka thought she might actually comfort him. "Instead," she said, "now you know how I felt every single day for 6 months. How does it feel, Emeka? How does it feel to be pregnant and alone?" The contractions started at 2 a.m. on a rainy Lagos morning. Emeka woke up gasping, his belly tightening with a pain so intense it felt like his body was being ripped apart from the inside. "Qingwei!" he screamed, but the pain was so overwhelming he could barely make sound. She appeared in the doorway, fully dressed, her hospital bag already packed. "It's time," she said calmly. "The pain," Emeka gasped between contractions. "I can't. It hurts so much." "I know," Qingwei said. And there was something in her voice, not kindness exactly, but understanding. "Let's go to the hospital." As they rushed through the empty Lagos streets, Emeka gripping Qingwei's hand as wave after wave of agony crashed over him, he realized that even now, even in his moment of greatest need, she was taking care of him. Despite everything he had done to her, despite all the cruelty, all the mockery, all the times he had made her feel small and worthless, she was still there. "I don't deserve you," he whispered between contractions. The labor lasted 18 hours. 18 hours of pain so intense that Emeka begged the doctors to just cut the baby out. 18 hours of feeling like his body was being torn apart. 18 hours of understanding, with crystal clarity, what women go through to bring life into the world. And through it all, Qingwei stayed by his side, not offering comfort that would come later, but bearing witness to his pain, making sure he experienced every moment of what she had endured alone. As the final contractions hit and Emeka felt himself being pulled into darkness by the sheer intensity of the pain, his last coherent thought wasn't about the baby or the impossible nature of his situation. It was an apology deep, sincere, and far too late for every moment of suffering he had caused the woman he loved. The world went white. Emeka's eyes snapped open. Sunlight, familiar ceiling, his own bed. His hand flew to his stomach, expecting to find the familiar curve of advanced pregnancy, but instead, his fingers met the flat, muscular surface he remembered from before this nightmare began. "It was a dream," he whispered, sitting up with an ease that felt miraculous. It was all a dream. But even as relief flooded through him, the memory of every sensation remained vivid. The pain, the humiliation, the desperate loneliness of being vulnerable and unloved. Every mocking word Qingwei had thrown back at him. every moment of understanding what he had put her through. He turned to see Qingwei sleeping beside him, her 6-month pregnant belly rising and falling gently with her breath. In the morning light, she looked exactly as she had the night before, tired, swollen, carrying their child with a grace he had never appreciated. The dream had been more real than reality. Every kick, every ache, every tear, every moment of wearing those maternity dresses and wigs, it was burned into his memory like a brand. Gently, with a tenderness that surprised even him, Emeka placed his hand on his wife's belly. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Qingwei stirred, her eyes opening slowly. When she saw him looking at her with an expression she hadn't seen in months, love, respect, genuine concern, she almost didn't trust it. "Good morning, my queen," Emeka said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "How are you feeling? How is our baby?" Qingwei blinked in confusion. I'm fine. Just tired and my back hurts." "Then stay in bed," Emeka said, already moving to get up. "Let me run you a warm bath. Let me make breakfast. You shouldn't be doing anything in your condition." "Emeka," Qingwei said slowly, "are you feeling all right?" He paused at the bedroom door, thinking of the dream that had taught him more about love and sacrifice than he had learned in 32 years of life. "I'm feeling like the most blessed man alive," he said. "And I promise you, my love, I will never ever forget how precious you are, how strong you are, how much you're sacrificing to bring our child into the world." As he headed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for his pregnant wife, really prepare it with love and gratitude instead of obligation, Emeka carried with him the memory of 8 months of pregnancy, 8 months of understanding what it meant to be vulnerable, to need help, to depend on someone else's kindness. He remembered every cruel word he had said because he had heard them all thrown back at him. He remembered every moment he had dismissed her pain because he had felt that pain himself. He remembered every time he had made her feel alone because loneliness during pregnancy was a special kind of hell. Some lessons, he realized, are too important to be learned gently. From that day forward, Emeka became the husband Qingwei had always deserved. He rubbed her feet without being asked. He cooked when she was tired. He held her when she cried from pain or hormones or simple overwhelming emotion. When people asked him what had changed him so dramatically, he would just smile and say, "I learned what it feels like to be pregnant." They thought he was speaking metaphorically. He knew better. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, and comment what you learned. Did Emeka deserve to taste the pain of pregnancy? Tell me what you think in the comments below. And then, in the heart of Lagos, in a small flat in Ikeja, a marriage was saved by a dream that felt more real than reality itself. And when their daughter was born 3 months later, Emeka held her with the reverence of a man who truly understood the miracle of the woman who had brought her into the world. Asterisk. Sometimes the universe teaches us lessons in the kindest way possible. Asterisk. Sometimes it doesn't. Asterisk. But the lessons are learned all the same. Asterisk.